The fabric of reality tore open over Coruscant, a silent wound in the void of space. From the unstable vortex, a single figure was ejected, tumbling briefly before stabilizing. Homelander floated in the vacuum, the lights of the galactic capital reflecting in his wide, captivated eyes. A slow, manic grin split his face. This was a stage worthy of a god. His arrival was not subtle. The massive doors to the Emperor's throne room, designed to withstand artillery, exploded inward in a shower of molten durasteel. Through the smoke and debris, Homelander strolled casually, brushing imaginary dust from his iconic suit. Imperial royal guards leveled their force pikes, stormtroopers aimed their blasters, but he ignored them all. His gaze was fixed on the shadowy figure on the distant throne. "Sorry for the door," Homelander called out, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "I just couldn't find the bell." He offered a dazzling, performative smile to the Emperor. Darth Vader took a threatening step forward, his lightsaber igniting with a deadly snap hiss. Homelander merely glanced at him, his smile turning cold. "And you must be the famous Vader. The suit is a lot, very trying too hard." Emperor Palpatine raised a slender hand, halting his apprentice. "Welcome," the Emperor's voice creaked, dripping with false warmth. "You have formidable power. To what do we owe this intrusion?" Homelander spread his hands. "Call it a career move. I look at this magnificent empire of yours and I see one critical flaw. All this fear." He shook his head with mock disappointment. "It's so inefficient. Where I'm from, I've learned you get so much more from love." The demonstration came swiftly. At a bustling Imperial dockyard, a captured rebel cruiser made a desperate bid for freedom, its engines overloading. As TIE fighters scrambled, a red and blue blur shot past them. Homelander planted himself directly in the path of the ship's main thrusters, the superheated plasma washing harmlessly over his chest. With a grunt of effort, he pushed. The massive vessel was physically shoved back into its docking clamps, engines whining until they died. He landed gently before a squad of stunned stormtroopers, placed a hand on one's shoulder, and winked. "All in a day's work, son." The viral footage spread through the Imperial ranks like a fever. In stormtrooper barracks, grainy recordings were passed from helmet to helmet. Homelander began holding his own inspections, parading before lines of faceless troopers. He stopped before one. "What's your name, soldier?" The trooper stiffened. "TK-422, sir." Homelander's expression softened with patronizing warmth. "No, your real name." A hushed, stunned pause followed. "Jax," the trooper whispered. Homelander's hand clasped his shoulder. "Jax, remember that name. You're not a number to me." From his command shuttle, Vader watched another hollow feed. On a besieged rebel world, Homelander ignored the careful siege lines, flying directly to the source of the enemy's shield. Rebel blaster bolts ricocheted from his eyes. He unleashed his heat vision, carving through the generator and the mountain it was built into. The subsequent cheers from the Imperial ground forces were deafening, chanting his name. Vader's fist clenched. This was not victory. It was vulgar spectacle. In the throne room, Palpatine observed his new weapons report. Homelander strode in, buzzing with adoration. "They were cheering for us," he said, his smile brilliant and empty. The Emperor's yellow eyes gleamed. "You have a unique gift, my child." The word child made Homelander's smile tighten. "I'm not your child. I'm the upgrade you didn't know you needed." Palpatine rose, his voice dropping to a sinister whisper. "You are a scared little boy in a god's body. You crave a father's approval because you were never fathered, only manufactured. You are hollow." Homelander's eyes began to glow a dangerous red. "Shut up," he hissed. The Emperor extended a hand, not in attack, but in offer. "Vader was broken and reborn. You were simply made. But I can teach you. I can give you the dark knowledge of a true father. Not the love of insects, but real power." The throne room doors opened. Vader stood there, sensing the pivotal betrayal. Homelander looked from the Emperor's outstretched hand to Vader's armored mask. A terrible understanding passed over his face. He turned to Vader, his voice dripping with contempt. "He's right. You're just a broken tool." Then, he looked back at Palpatine and gave a slow, deliberate nod. "All right, let's talk." Weeks later, the face of the Empire had changed. Homelander stood on a balcony overlooking a sea of stormtroopers, now wearing a custom suit of black and imperial gray, a blood-red cape lining flowing behind him. The troops roared his name in unison, a wave of fanatical devotion. He smiled, soaking it in, a perfect, beloved god. High above, aboard the Executor, Darth Vader stared at a silent hologram of the rally, his respirator cycling steadily in the dark. His anger was no longer a hot flame, but a cold, compacted star of betrayal and fury. And deep within the palace, Emperor Palpatine watched from the shadows, a smile of supreme satisfaction on his withered face. He had not conquered the outsider. He had dissected his deepest need and weaponized it. The Empire now had a dazzling new face of terror, and its soul had grown infinitely darker. The game, for all of them, had just begun. The change was immediate and systemic. Imperial HoloNet channels, once dedicated to dry recitations of sector pacifications and new decrees, were suddenly commandeered. The stern visage of a propaganda officer was replaced with gleaming, high-production value segments featuring Homelander. They showed him rescuing a stranded Imperial patrol on a toxic world, carrying their damaged shuttle to safety with one hand. They showed him gently comforting the citizens of a liberated world, promising them safety and strength under the new order. The message was clear. The Empire was not just a fist, it was a protective, loving embrace. And Homelander was its face. Darth Vader observed this not from the shadows, but from the front lines of a grinding campaign in the mid-rim. His methods, terror, overwhelming force, the chilling finality of his presence, were suddenly being contrasted with the new model. A report crossed his datapad. A company of troopers from the 501st, his own legion, had been reassigned to Morale and Outreach Division Alpha, a new unit following Homelander like a personal guard. The attached image showed them, their armor freshly painted with a subtle crimson stripe, standing proudly behind the smiling supe. Vader crushed the datapad in his fist. He returned to Coruscant, a storm contained within black armor. He found Homelander not in the throne room, but in a newly renovated wing of the palace, a lavish suite that doubled as a media studio. Holocams hovered around as Homelander practiced a line about Imperial unity. "You pervert the chain of command," Vader's voice boomed, cutting through the artificial lights. The holocam droids quickly pivoted, capturing the confrontation. Homelander didn't turn, admiring his reflection in a monitor. "I am the chain of command, Tin Man. I go straight to the top. I talked to Dad." He finally looked at Vader, the friendly facade melting into something cruel and amused. "You're still waiting in the foyer. You breed insubordination. You make them soft," Vader accused, stepping closer. "I make them loyal. Something you only get through fear of you. I give them pride. They fight for me because they love me. What do they fight for you for? Because they're terrified you'll choke them out from 3 rooms away?" Homelander chuckled, a dry, hateful sound. "It's a weaker bond. Everyone knows it, even him." The challenge hung in the air. This was no longer about tactics. It was about primacy. Vader saw the holocams recording, sensing the Emperor's distant, watchful presence. He would not perform for this creature. "Your power is a crutch. Without it, you are nothing." "And with it," Homelander said, floating an inch off the ground to look down at Vader, "I am everything. You want to test that theory? Let's go outside. Give the people a real show. The old guard versus the future." The Emperor's voice, smooth and commanding, emanated from the suite's calm. "Such energy is better directed at the rebellion, my friends. Lord Vader, your presence is required on the Executor. We have located a key cell on Dantooine. You will extract them. Homelander, a philanthropic tour of the core worlds awaits. Your inspiration is needed. It was a masterful separation. Vader was sent to do the brutal, unseen work of the Empire, the wet work that sustained its power. Homelander was sent to polish its public image, to sell the dream. The schism was now operational, woven into the fabric of Imperial governance. On Dantooine, Vader was a specter of death. His fury, stoked by Homelander's insolence, was unleashed without restraint. A hidden rebel base was not just captured, it was made an example of. Yet, when the security holograms of his slaughter were sent to Coruscant, they were quietly archived by Imperial intelligence. They were not the kind of imagery for the new era. Meanwhile, Homelander's tour was a triumph. On Corellia, he lifted a collapsing freighter dock to save hundreds of workers. Footage of Imperial engineers and common citizens weeping with gratitude dominated the news cycles. He began giving speeches, his rhetoric subtly shifting. He spoke of the strong protecting the weak, of a purified, united galaxy, and always of the wise guidance of our Emperor. He was building a brand, and the brand was more powerful than any single Star Destroyer. Vader returned from his bloody mission to a capital that felt alien. Posters with Homelander's face were everywhere. Children in the Imperial city sported toy capes. The adulation was a palpable fog in the air. He marched directly to the throne room, finding Palpatine alone. The tool has become a rival, Vader stated, his voice a low growl. He undermines discipline. He believes his own myth. All tools believe they are the hand until reminded otherwise, Palpatine mused, staring out at the cityscape. He has uses yet. The galaxy is responding to him. Recruitment is up in systems he has visited. Dissent is down. He is a cancer. He is a catalyst, Lord Vader, and you are the stabilizer. The dark side requires both, the dazzling light to blind and the absolute cold to kill. You are my will. He is my illusion. Do not confuse the two. But Vader saw the truth. The Emperor was enjoying the experiment, playing two forces against each other to see which would emerge stronger, which would be more useful for his eternal reign. Vader was no longer the sole apprentice. He was one of two competing heirs. The final provocation came from Homelander himself. During a galaxy-wide HoloNet address from the steps of the Imperial Palace, after another rousing speech, a pre-selected child from the crowd was brought forward. Homelander knelt, beaming, and presented the girl with a small, perfect replica of his new Imperial crest. As the crowd sighed, he looked directly into the primary hologram, his eyes twinkling with malice. "And remember," he said, his voice taking on a warm, conspiratorial tone, "no matter how dark space seems, you're never alone. I'm always watching. I'll always be there to clean up the mess, no matter who makes it." In his quarters, Vader watched. The meaning was unmistakable. The mess was Vader's methods. The who was Vader himself. The challenge was now public, galactic. The Sith Lord's patience, worn thin by manipulation and mockery, finally snapped. The Emperor's games had created a monster, and Vader decided it was time to put it down. Not for the Empire, but for himself. He would show this manufactured god the true cost of power, the real price of the dark side. The throne room conflict had been a psychic battle. The next one would be a war, and it would happen not by the Emperor's design, but in spite of it. The silence on the Executor's bridge was absolute, broken only by the rhythmic rasp of Vader's respirator. Before him, the hollow feed of Homelander's address played on a loop. The charming smile, the adoring crowd, the veiled threat. "I'll always be there to clean up the mess, no matter who makes it." The message was received. This was no longer mere rivalry. It was a declaration of war for the soul of the Empire. The Emperor's grand experiment had unleashed a force of pure, narcissistic chaos, one that threatened to consume the very hierarchy it pretended to adore. Vader saw the future with chilling clarity. A galaxy ruled not by the disciplined will of the dark side, but by the fickle, hungry love of a mad god. Palpatine might savor the chaos, but Vader would end it. He turned from the screen, his cape swirling as he faced the expanse of stars. The course was set. Homelander believed his power made him untouchable, a solar system unto himself. He understood nothing of the shadows between the stars, of patience, or of the true, corrosive power of hate. Vader would teach him. He would dismantle his legend, not with a grand public duel, but with the precise, unrelenting pressure that crushes planets into dust. The final game had begun, and its first move would be a whisper, not a shout. A single order given in the quiet of the bridge, setting in motion a chain of events that would bring Homelander's glittering world crashing down. The Empire would have one master, and the galaxy would learn the final terrible difference between a celebrity and a Sith Lord. The stage is set. The ultimate power struggle within the Empire begins now. Who will triumph? The brutal, legendary fist of Darth Vader, or the dazzling, psychotic darling of the masses, Homelander? Subscribe to Infinite Galaxy Multiverse and hit the notification bell. The first move in this Shadow War is coming. You will not want to miss the moment Vader decides the Empire isn't big enough for the two of them. Let us know in the comments. Who are you betting on? And what should Homelander's first real shock be when he learns he's not fighting a hero, but a predator?